The whole scared money don't make money thing may or may not be true, but it absolutely is true if you need to raise your prices and you are terrified and frozen with anxiety. In this video, I'm going to talk about how to know when you need to raise your prices and how exactly to do it. And the idea for this video came threefold. Number one, you asked for it, not just in our annual survey the other week. Thank you so much for your responses there. But in a video I did recently where I talked all about how I plan out my small business budget, you commented that you needed that. So here we go. Also, number two, I was on a girls trip the other weekend and I was sitting down talking to two of my very best friends. I met them when I was like 4 or 5 years old, and they both are creative entrepreneurs in their own right. At one point, talking to my wedding photographer friend who's been in business for a decade, I got down on my hands and knees and I was sitting there in this pose begging her, please, would you raise your prices? And in that moment, I thought, I guess I'm a little passionate about this. Which brings me to point three. I got back from said weekend and I was sitting with my husband having a financial meeting about my business, and he realized we hadn't raised our prices in about 1.5 years. And so when he was telling me we needed to raise them, and I was coming up with all these reasons why we really shouldn't do that right now, light bulb moment yet again. This is one of those things in business and entrepreneurship that is so easy to see in other people, but when you turn it around on yourself, it's so hard. Click like if you agree, if raising your prices, upping your rates has ever been a little bit difficult, a little bit scary. And while you're down there, hit subscribe and the bell next to it. My name is Ashlyn Carter. I'm a conversion copywriter and brand and launch strategist for creative entrepreneurs like you. I am obsessed with trying to figure out how to help you make more money with your words, and a lot of how you communicate your price point goes into that. So today's video is going to be great. I'm going to jump straight in. These are 5 telltale clues that you should probably raise your prices. Okay, number one is also the least emotional reason for a price hike. This is going to be so easy to see if you have a physical product-based businesses, but service providers and digital product-based businesses, you're not off the hook. More on that in a sec, but I know a lot of people that follow me fall into that first group, and you have a high material cost. You're a floral designer or a jewelry designer, or you do baking. Shout out to Kelsey. She's a student inside copywriting for creatives. Talked to her a few times recently. People like Kelsey and floral designers also remind me that some of you have an inventory that expires and you have to factor that into your cost of goods, which is a whole nother thing. Unless your cost base has gone down recently, which is probably unlikely, then cost of goods going up due to things like inflation, that's probably meaning your income overall is decreasing. Okay, but service providers or digital product providers, back to you. You may see inflation starting to affect some of your software prices, but think about client gifting, for example. We like to keep our client gifting to about 3% of your total package costs. We found that to be a great number over the years. And even in our client gifts, those have gone up. They're a physical gift and we also ship them, so shipping rates have gone up. All of that is something I need to be hyper aware of. Yes, my time is one of the cost of goods factored into my services packages, but so is the client gift. Number two, you're booking out easy, you're closing, filling those spots, no problem. First of all, way to go you, pat yourself on the back. Secondly, if you're converting about 80% either of your inquiries or people that you hop on the phone with for a discovery call, I'm doing that thing where I talk with my hands again because I'm getting into it, then you probably need to raise your rates. This is interesting too. Some coaches would even say 80% is on the high end, just throwing that out there. But if you consistently book out and fill all your spots, this may be a time to consider your rates. Number three, you need to make sure that your hard costs are about 40% of the overall charge of the package or the finished product. This kind of relates to clue number one, but I do like that number of about 40%. I learned this originally from my friend Shanna Skidmore when I was going through the blueprint model and applying it to my own business. And it seemed high then, and it kind of does now, but when you break it down and you look at the fact that all the profit that comes into your business, and by the way, I did a video recently where I talked about my Finance Friday workflow, so look for that. You can see kind of the percentages that I allot to each part of my budget. But once you get that profit back and you're saving your big chunk for taxes and you're paying the house, the cost of goods, then what's left over, that profit margin, if you're sticking to that 40-50% range, then you're looking at like a 20 to 40% profit margin, which is what I like to stick in. Again, go watch that video, but Shanna says, and I have learned, the markup should be around 3-ish times what the cost of goods is. Reason number four, it's simply been a long time since you've raised your prices at all. This was me, and usually always is me. Some experts say you need to look at your prices and up them every 6 to 9 months just due to what things cost in the world. I go about 1 year to 1.5 years before I raise my prices, which is on the longer end. I've personally found that raising our rates has little to no effect on the booking average. Perceived value is a thing. And the beauty of upping your prices, even just by a few percentage points, this goes back to what you've heard people say before when they talk about with your business, you're leaving money on the table, because if you up this even by a few percentage points, you're able to recoup more money overall in your business, or net, I guess is the right word, more money overall in your business. By not adding any more clients, by not adding any new lines, you're just overall upping your profits. And clue number 5, you do mystery shopping or price comparison with your competitors and you find you're a little bit on the low end. We worked through this last year. We have a client who absolutely is in a luxury market, and she was doing some deep research into figuring out what the application process looked like with her competitors, with the people that her brides were also looking to work with. It was good for her from a pricing standpoint to see, yep, I am right there in the middle of the pack. I'm competitively priced here. But it was fascinating because we got to get in there and see from a messaging standpoint, both with her brand message and with the sales copy we were using, how we could get in there and speak to these people maybe a little bit better than her competitors were. Okay, those are the 5 clues. Let me know if one of those rings true for you. The second part of the video, I want to talk through how to do it, because again, if you're like me, the anxiety set in, and I was telling my husband all the reasons why I did not need to raise my price. For me, it always comes back to, I think the minute I up my prices, crickets will start. No one is gonna reach out if we raise our rate. But that just tends not to be true. That could be a whole nother video, but the first step here obviously is decide what that price point is gonna be and be able to argue for it well. I'm pumped again to be leading another crew through my bonus experience inside the blueprint model. We're gonna work on that there. But once you've picked this number, step 1, step 2, you wanna consider, how is this price going to affect my customers or clients? If a candle that I love raises their prices 10%, I'm probably not really gonna notice, but my brand photographer upped her rates and I absolutely noticed. So you wanna consider that, and if you're a service provider, here's what you wanna do. The best way that I've done it over the years is start at the back of the funnel or the experience and work towards the first things that they see, like your website or that booking process. So I start at the contract. I look through the entire contract and make sure that that new price point is communicated and I've got that number correct, because you don't want to mess up there. Those payment plans need to go up a little bit as well. You're not a bank, you can't just bankroll people. I have messed this up 100%, but yes, remember that on a payment plan, you do kind of lose money as a business. So accommodate for that. Once you get your contract done, I move back to the next step for us is the proposal itself that goes out to potential clients. So I'm going to go through that and make sure that the numbers are accurately reflected. I've got another tip here, so stay tuned till the end of the video. Then I work backwards again to that pricing magazine. I make sure that I've got that all set with the new reflected pricing. And I'm gonna pause here because this is where I get very opinionated. If you're inside copywriting for creatives, or you've gotten your hand on my services page template or my sales page template that's inside the copy bar shop, then you are aware of my Sweet 16 method. There are 16 psychological levers that you need to be pulling for your clients and your customers as they're moving down that funnel. That's a fancy way to say they're moving closer and closer towards that customer journey of giving you their credit card information and paying to work with you. I'll put them up over the side. I've got so many resources on this. So you need to bake these things. If they're not on your website, on your services page, or on your sales page, you've got to be baking them into your pricing guide. Please do not send like one PDF that just has your pricing, like your rate sheet, off. There's a lot of price anchoring in psychology that you need to do to help them understand why things cost what they do. This goes into educating your client. They may have never been through this before. They don't know your experience and how you do things, so you've got to tell them that. Back another step further, if there's any updating to do in my sales call script, I'm gonna do that. I've also done a video with my entire sales call script and how I do that. Get dang good at those. That's just a wonderful tip for business. And then the last step is updating pricing on my website. I am team list your prices on your website. I have my reasons. Again, that's a whole nother video. It boils down to this: by not listing your price or giving them any sort of zone to think in, a lot of times people just think if you don't list your prices, it's too expensive for them, it's too exclusive. So you want to give them some sort of frame of reference to think in. Okay, so that's a quick and dirty how-to walkthrough for service providers. If you have a recurring service, like an agency type model, or you've got a membership and you need to up rates on that, here are some tips that I've told some of our students inside Copywriting for Creatives recently. You You've pretty much got two options here. Number one, you can choose to grandfather everybody in that trusted you initially. I love this option because some people trusted you back when you had no track record and they just went for it with you. I kind of like to honor that person. Again, this brings up discretion. You're going to have to look at your own numbers. You may have one or two clients that you always want to just lock them into that original rate. This creates loyalty. You may also just give them an increased rate but lower than the sticker price that new people are paying. You've got some options there, and you definitely want to communicate regardless that your prices are going up. You want to let them know whether it's affecting them or not. But option number two is if you're raising it for everybody, here's what I recommend. The biggest tip here, you have to answer the "what's in it for me" question. That's who they care about. You want to show them the value. Explain how this price hike is working to benefit them. It means you can hire more team members. It means you can buy premium products that go into making whatever it is that you give to them. Customers and clients always appreciate transparency, so explain to them why. That's one big takeaway I have back from corporate marketing days. The Delta SkyMiles membership ladder of their benefits changed, and I saw we had to drop all the customer communication that went out to them about why this was happening and why this affected them. One thing I saw is how much people appreciate you just shooting it straight. This is why. But again, it goes back, the "what's in it for me" thing is huge. You have to explain why this benefits them. That brings me to the last part of this video. I wanted to give a couple of pro tips. Number one, on value. When you're trying to think of ways that this benefits people who are going to be paying a little bit more, look for ways that you can sell your sawdust. That's not my phrase. I've never been able to find who coined it, but what in your services process, for example, do you do by nature of you executing the service to create the deliverable for your client that you might as well just give them that. You created it. It is on the chopping block. It's not one of the final deliverables, but you could add value to that client and not add any more time to your process and just go ahead and give them that too. Or what things have you created for other clients and customers that you could bundle up and throw in there for them as well? A good client experience, that's something I'm very passionate about. That's something that is an absolute added value. The second pro tip I have though, if you've never invested the price of your product or service in someone else to go through the client experience and see what it's like to spend 3 figures or 4 figures or 5 figures, I highly recommend it. That is an education and it will change your client experience for sure. I know I've talked about that in some other videos, but my last pro tip here to wrap up is go ahead and grocery store receipt your offer. To point back to the Sweet 16 sales page and services page, this walks you through that, but I have found when I'm raising my rates, if I go through line iteming out every single thing that I provide as a deliverable or a part of the process along the way, and I figure what is the cost of goods that goes into that, whether it's time, if there is some physical product involved, every step of that, and I figure out the number for that, I add them all up. Usually that makes me feel pretty good about raising the prices because I see, yes, there's a lot that goes into this. Okay, I hope this video gave you a little bit of behind the scenes in what I've done when it's time to raise my prices. I hope it encourages you. Let me know below if there's any questions that you have. I know I mentioned a ton of resources too, so I'll link those down below as well. I do have an anatomy of the perfect services page. You could use that for your pricing magazine as well. That's a freebie. I'll put that below this video for you to grab. Once you've got your new rates locked in and communicated, you're going to be ready for more eyes to be on your business. So be sure to watch the next video I've got teed up for you. I'm taking you behind the scenes on how I write a media pitch template. As always, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.